Thanks, Denise. Wednesday the 12th of March, here with Jack Hurst, just discussing his customer service tasks, responsibilities. We've been observing Jack this morning with repeated customer service problems, different problems in which the customers are phoning up and Jack's either dealing with a query or putting it through to different departments, liaising with his colleagues within the council to resolve those. So a couple of things that I wanted to chat through with Jack was a little bit about repeated customer service problems and sort of how to solve those. So talk me through some of the problems that repeatedly come up and you get called to speak about, Jack, and resolve.
Yeah, so one problem that I'd like to highlight, or probably you would have sort of gathered from listening to my phone calls, a lot of people ring up about the bin collections. So as a council we provide sort of a weekly bin collection for basically every house which falls under the Fareham district as such. Yeah. We get a lot of calls about people phoning in, either they've missed the bin, or their bin may be damaged in some way. So that's quite a sort of a repeated problem that we get.
Mm-hmm. So what are the sort of advantages and disadvantages of how to deal with that problem and the process in place?
Yeah, the advantages and disadvantages basically are depending on what the problem is, we can deal with it in a certain way. So advantages, if the guys who make the collections if they have missed it on purpose, we've got the option to then come back the next day for it, which is sort of good to tell the customer. Yeah. Disadvantages is there on the downside is if they have noted there's a problem with the collection. So if maybe someone's forgotten to put their bin out on a certain day, they won't return for the bin. So that's a little bit sort of hard to tell customers sometimes. Yeah. Obviously they have to wait another week for a bin collection as such. So that can sometimes be a bit of a problem, sort of putting that across to the customers.
And when you put the request in to the refuge department, do you get to know that that's been resolved, or is it taken for granted?
No, we don't. So we do all of the basically administration work and logging for the case. So we take all the information, exactly what the call is relating to. So if it's a damaged bin, we'll take all the information on. And then it's passed through on the system to a different department. So we're obviously working with that department to make sure it's done.
So if someone rings back up,
so that's often a problem because we can do our very best in our department, but then it's then passed on to the refuse and recycling, and we're sort of none the wiser of what's going on. One way of dealing with it, we have got a system we can look into and pop a number into it. And see what sort of stage it is. And if it's still basically on the list to be done.
And how does it work with regards to if you feel things should be changed? Do you have a forum in which you collate that information from the team for customer services? Who does it get escalated to? What's the process for that?
Generally, we'd sort of just highlight it. We've got sort of a comment thing that we can raise any comments to do with the service on. Also, I've mentioned before about the liaison meeting that I do. That's something which often comes up with things, so maybe different problems in departments or ways that a service could be improved. I would then sort of take that information from the person and take the points to the meeting to put it across to the managers to see if there's something they want to sort of put in place to try and make the service better.
And sort of in your time here, so you've been here now 18 months, right?
Sure, I think 16 months.
And so tell me a bit about when you first came to customer services and now, what you've learned, what you've evaluated, your observation really of how it works and things.
I think when I first joined, a lot of the queries were new to me. I'm still getting sort of questions and queries now which I've never heard of before. So
how do you deal with that?
A lot of it is liaising with colleagues. Obviously some people up there have been there for a good amount of time, so they've got experience in dealing with that. So asking colleagues is often a good way to sort of deal with the inquiry. If not, sort of liaise with other departments to see if they can help. Just sort of get a brief understanding of what their question is, and sort of get the best department who could maybe answer the question for them.
And in terms of sort of getting customers resolved and sort of building on, I guess your brand, isn't it? You're trying to put across it when they phone in.
Yeah.
How's it working with external organisations? Do you have to speak to any external organisations?
Not really. I mean, we liaise with other councils.
Okay, so that is.
Gosport Council also. A couple of our departments within the building are shared departments. So, for example, our environmental health section is shared with Gosport, which means they deal with both Fareham residents and also Gosport residents. So, it's kind of sort of trying to build, sort of, as you say, sort of a good image really for the organisation, just to present yourself there, and obviously try and get people back for sort of repeat business as such.
Yeah, that's good. And how, when you're on the phone, how do you deal with a customer that's I just observed you then talking to someone that obviously had somebody pass away. How do you deal with that kind of situation? How do you deal with someone that's angry? Talk to me about some of the situations where it's not straightforward.
It obviously depends on what the call's in relation to, but if it's sort of a bit of a sensitive situation, I think you need to sort of show empathy towards the customer. Obviously, just to ensure that you're being friendly and kind to them, and not escalating situations at all. So just sort of stay calm and positive, really.
Yeah.
With obviously angry customers, I think it's important to be as sort of informative as you can, so make sure they're getting correct information, and no sort of sense of sort of leaving them so they know what's going on, rather than leaving them a bit clueless to what's going on with their particular inquiry or query that they might have.
Yeah, and does that often work when you reassure them?
Sometimes, yeah, but obviously we get the odd one or two which remain to be quite irate with you on the phone, and that's obviously why we've got team leaders there to take on any people basically that are still not happy and persisting to be quite aggressive or angry on the phone.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, thanks, Jack.